Guys, what's up? Welcome back to Tomboy Official. I'm on here today. Mainly the topic I want to talk on is just a general baby gay topic, an intro for baby gays, those of you who are new to the community, who kind of are coming into a realization of more aspects of yourself, or more accurate aspects of yourself, or different details about yourself that maybe, aren't straight or aren't cis. Welcome. So I'll get more into it, but yeah, I just wanted to update you guys that things are kind of getting a little smoother, so I'm glad. A lot of it has to do with the changes we're seeing with the P word, as somebody so creatively told me. That's how they describe it. So yeah, I mean, I know it's not great for everybody out there, but I'm still here to provide content, rain or shine. I know it always seems like I'm not posting enough. Maybe that is my own perspective, that I'm not posting enough. I'm still recording though, a lot. Yeah, some things that are changing in my world are that, for people who have listened for a while, or even if you're new, just so you know, I share a house with people, and so my rent cost is much lower than where I live. $1,600 will get you a decent studio, maybe $1,500 if you're lucky. $1,500. If you're looking for something lower than $1,500 and your credit score is under like 650, it's gonna be a struggle. I mean, you're really competing with like so many people trying to rent right now. So I feel like what's happening is a lot of people are maybe downgrading to something more affordable, but more affordable is becoming more expensive than it was. So yeah, $1,500-$1,600 for a studio out here, if you're not looking for like heavy competition. And that doesn't even always include utilities, and that's if you have a credit score that's like 650 up. If you have anything a little less than that situation that I just explained, it's really hard to kind of move somewhere cheaper. My rent's about to be about $785. It's been $765 for a bit now. When I first moved in, it was $725. I'm renting a bedroom centrally located in San Diego, and we are not far off from like Tecolote Canyon area. So at least there's good hiking around. Some things that get in the way of me recording, definitely it's been the heat. I'm off work today, so I have some time to kind of get on this podcast, but the heat kind of interferes with my flexibility. So I like to record indoors in the house, in the comfort of my own room. But the walls here are thin. We have wood floors, sound carries. Even when somebody's generally having a phone conversation, you can hear it. So there's like no privacy. And a lot of the times, I'm not trying to like sit here like talking about all these like gay, queer topics and then having like the whole house like listen in. I'm not like fully out to the people in my house, but I mean, Pride comes around and I'm all dressed up in rainbows. I mean, I got a little pride flag in my car on my dashboard, and I present very androgynously. I don't know if people in my house have seen me doing my laundry. I kind of fold up my stuff and put it on the dryer if I'm doing multiple loads. They probably notice, I have like some Axe deodorant, some Axe soap, products, things like that. So, and some underwear brands I have, and some types of underwear for maybe too much information. They're kind of like guys underwear and stuff. Not all of them, some of them are. Things like that kind of maybe alert others to, hey, maybe I'm not a cis straight person, but cis straight people can still do those types of things too, even if they're born females. I mean, in my mind, there's no real rules, you know? If you're not stepping on toes, you're not stepping on anybody's toes. If you're not having bad intentions, if you're not taking advantage of anybody or taking away anybody's rights, you're kind of just doing your own thing. I don't really see any harm in it. But yeah. Anyways, you know, with the heat, because I usually record in the car because of the whole privacy situation that I don't have much of to be on the phone. Usually I even take my phone calls in the car, or if I video chat. I've done an interview in the car before, on like a video interview, just because it's like, you know, I have people vacuuming and having the blender going, and then somebody's playing music and somebody else is talking in the hallway to another person. Like, there aren't that many people living here, but still, it's like, I don't want to be like, hey, everybody be quiet between these times because I'm busy. You know, it's kind of like we all live such separate lives that I just don't like. I don't like involving them in mine too much, other than if they explicitly ask me what I'm doing, or I'll maybe tell them. Like, I was at a gay club last night. It was fine. Music was good. They started up a Sunday event again that was kind of a routine Sunday DJ set. I got to see Kygo live up in LA on the weekend. Man, it's been busy. I took Friday off work. I took today, Monday, September 13th off work. So I partied a lot. I partied hard Friday, guys. Like, I was like, man, this is like, I did go to a Crossed Festival, but this was my first, like, in a long time, because I hadn't even really gone a lot before the pandemic, because I was just like, I can go anytime. Like, I live in an area where it's easy to just go places, or at least, you know, I'm not so far from LA that I can't just drive there, and my family lives up there, so I can just stay in LA anytime. But hopefully, guys, things will change a little bit. It'll get a little more flexible for me with the roommate who's across the hall from me now is working weekdays. So it's not like, you know, the one that I share a wall with has been working. So I'm hoping, with not having to record in the car so much, and with the temperature just dropping like 7 to 75 instead of being 85, 90, I'm hoping that'll provide, and the sun goes down like around 7 now instead of like 8:30. So all these things combined kind of are making it easier for me to find time to record that's convenient, and I feel like it. Usually I kind of have the most energy for that kind of stuff, like mornings, on weekends, or evenings after work, because like I get out of work a little too early to just like have dinner right away. Like 4:00, I can't really eat dinner, so I mean, it's kind of early, and I'll get hungry. Sorry, guys. All right, I had an incoming call. It shuts off my app whenever I have an incoming call, so please bear with me. But yeah, I'm hoping that with those changes that have come up, that, you know, I'm going to be able to at least be more comfortable recording and not feel like, now I got to drive like down the street in the shade. Because sometimes that spot, a lot of people have been parking there, and then like, even though there was shade, I still had to have my windows open, and it's like, it's awkward, guys. For me, it's honestly a little bit awkward to be recording like super queer topics, you know, like, especially because I talk about a little bit of personal stuff. I'm not always just like talking about just like general towards other people. Like, I'm kind of talking about my own life a lot and about my own experiences a lot, and I feel like I don't mind sharing those with people in the community who are, you know, seeking some kind of, I guess, a variety of different reasons why people listen. You know, maybe they want something to relate to, or just something to kind of maybe expand their minds to other people's experiences, or, you know, kind of see what things are like for other people, and just kind of exploring more into like what other people say. I mean, that's why I listen to podcasts and like watch a lot of YouTubers and stuff. I like to hear what they say. Some recent, I've been catching back up with Jay Killam's podcast. So she has, like, for people who don't know the spelling, JKIILLEM. So Jay Killam does a lot of events up in LA, photography, is on YouTube, Instagram, posting a lot. She's one of the first queer kind of, I mean, I don't think she identifies as like a non-binary person, but she's she's a very masculine presenting female, very creative, very out there in the community, socially creating events and being part of them, and connected with a lot of people who put on events, or musicians or artists or clothing brand people, and just people around up in LA, in the city. So especially like QPOC, queer people of color, populations of people, she's definitely more involved. She's one of the YouTubers that's more involved. Something that's cool about her is that, I mean, she is like biracial, doesn't really maybe look totally biracial, maybe looks, people would probably assume that she's just Caucasian only, but has like some immigrant history in her family and everything. And I think that's kind of something that's cool, that you see her on her YouTube with a bunch of people in the community that are different, like maybe Asian people or Latino people, definitely a lot of African American and Black people. She's out there, and I think it kind of brings a lot of people into her, into that world, the QPOC world of queerness, that doesn't really get seen in the mainstream too much, because usually what the algorithm promotes, it's the Caucasian crowd of people. Things are monetized differently, just everything's a little different. So it's cool to see that she's kind of able to kind of cross a little bit, just because she doesn't present a certain way, she kind of crosses into looking, she's, she looks white, but she's not fully white. But I mean, she's able to kind of bring out a lot of content that I think might get otherwise kind of lost. But yeah, I've been checking out some of her more recent videos since the one that she had with her sister, where she was like having her sister dress more mask. She has like a very straight sister, and she was like dressing her up in her clothes and stuff. It was a cute video. And then since then, I think she made some videos about the taste events that they have up in LA. She was kind of interviewing people about like, what type of girls do you like, or what are you into, and like that kind of thing. So that's kind of fun to see her kind of out doing those kind of interview videos, because I'd never seen her do too much of that, like too much. So it's kind of cool to hear other people say stuff, and see who's going to the events through the videos, like kind of see like what it looks like and everything like that. I'm going to be coming up with an OnlyFans that has some content that might be a little 18 plus. Some, written, just kind of like short stories. They're not like necessarily like, it's fiction stuff, but like gay fiction, basically. Really gay. I'm pretty sure it won't disappoint. There might be some erotic overtones in there. We'll see. I don't know if people are into like literotica, that kind of, I don't know if that's even what it's called, but there's a website that's like that, and I feel like it's not gay enough. But I like that kind of stuff. I find it interesting. But anyways, so yeah, with that long 12 to 15 minutes of just me rambling, I'm just gonna jump into talking about these baby gay topics. So, yeah, that's kind of, I think that catches you guys up to this point. of what I've been up to a little bit lately. It's nice getting back out there. It's tiring. Been going on some dates. That's fun. It's weird because I haven't really been trying to like date at all for like over a year. So it's, I don't know. There's a new normal right now that I'm just trying to get absorbed into. I don't really know why things feel so different and weird, but they do. I don't think I'm the only one. It's just, it feels like slightly familiar, but then I'm like no longer at home with things. Almost like, so if you've ever moved away from a city, right? Or a town or whatever, or neighborhood, whatever you want to call it. You move away, say if you've moved away to a distance that's close enough that you can still go like every other weekend, once a month, once every other month or so. And then you're stationed in your new neighborhood. And then initially when you first start going, it seems familiar. It's still familiar. But say you take a really long break and don't go for multiple months, or just after just years in general, it starts to feel less and less like that is your home, and you start connecting more to like where you live. But then there's still that kind of like familiarity, like you're like, it's familiar, but it doesn't feel like, you don't feel like so connected to it or in tune with it maybe. And then when you're at home where you are, you're like, it kind of takes maybe a little bit to resettle once you kind of come back from like a trip to your old neighborhood. So that's kind of how it feels. That's the best way I can describe it. It feels kind of like a little out of place, like familiar. I'm doing the same kind of stuff, but I'm not maybe the same exact person that I was when I was doing this 2019 or 2020. I don't even know what the heck year it was. 2020, before like, say even like Valentine's of 2020. I remember that's probably the last time I went out like partying, like before the P word was a thing. And we were just doing the normal. Near February, it was all, I remember going to the same gay bar and grill like 3 times in a row in that month. Drinking the same drink, talking to the same people, seeing the same waiters. It was awesome. I never complained. I was just, I never get sick of it. But now when I go there, it's like different waiters. I don't recognize people when I look around. It's like different people. It's getting a little, I think one thing that's a little off too is the little socialness. Because if you go to gay clubs and gay bars, and I was explaining this to a previous roommate, a friend of mine, I was telling him, like, when you go to gay clubs, when you go to gay bars, it's very social. Like, it's not like people are there thinking, oh, when you talk to me, you're hitting on me. Like, nobody knows what other people are really looking for. You don't always know how they identify, so you never really assume, oh, this person's interested in me, or they're hitting on me, or they're trying to flirt because they want me to come home with them or whatever. It can often just feel like conversation for conversation's sake, very open-minded, very, just people are kind of in a good mood. Music is always good, the vibe's usually good, drinks are good, food is good when they have food and stuff. It's usually a positive environment, at least where I live. There are safe spaces. I mean, there's definitely plenty of security that keeps an eye out on things, and there's definitely, when there are substances flowing, and when there are people that, just in general, there's always going to be maybe potential for some drama. So it's not always perfect, and there's drama that comes up. But for this topic of baby gays, let's get into this, because a baby gay is not always someone who is young and queer or part of the LGBTQ plus community, or a baby gay isn't always just like underage, under 18, or younger, not in high school or something. It can also be, you know, when you came out. So you can be a 30-year-old baby gay. You can be a 60-year-old baby gay. Someone who's kind of newly being involved with other gays, with their experience of being out, or even if they're not out, but just like recognizing that, oh, I'm gay, or oh, I'm lesbian, or oh, I'm something, I'm this, I'm that. I'm not straight, I'm not cis. I haven't really heard of a term related to gender, but I'm just gonna throw the genders all in there too, because a lot of times when you see a lot of like gender identities and gender presentations, you see a lot more variety in the queer community. I feel like a lot of us who are in the heteronormative world, where everything's heteronormative and just hetero run, hetero privilege and everything like that, people kind of go towards certain dress styles. There's certain norms, expectations. I feel like in the queer community, you're kind of just doing what you do. You do you. If you are a dude and you want to put on some heels and they fit you, you go for it. Like there's a little bit more openness with a lot of different things. So I think when it comes to gender and when it comes to sexuality, there's a lot of more open options, I guess, or spaces or presentations or identities. I'll give you an example. So the city of Hillcrest has a lot of gay bars, a lot of little clubs that are it's like bar / clubs / bar and grill / outdoor lounge, hang out, eat some food, drink something, listen to some DJs, listen to some music in the background. And they have events at some of them that will be like a certain sort of theme. So definitely like, say Halloween has a theme or something like that. And then for like everywhere, because it's Halloween, or they'll just have like, say during summer, there's a lot of like pool party type of things that started popping up, like pool party events in different places that are kind of like hosted or like promoted by certain bars or clubs, but it's like in another place where there's actually a pool, because they don't have pools on their own properties. So some of the hotels, because San Diego has tons of hotels, they would host some events at hotels. And so something you see a lot is like just a whole lot of there's that, there's sex shops around. I think a BDSM type of sex shop just like popped up. It's pretty clean cut looking. A lot of beautiful like artwork, art looking pieces. It looks almost like a mini art gallery. It kind of seems almost like a little craft gallery. It's small. It's like the same type of storefront as all the other sizes of storefronts in that area. It's not like huge or anything, but it's new. I think it's called Grace something. I don't know. But there's a lot of places that, you just look around and there's kind of like, you just see so much variety, There's a lot of different things that cater to a lot of people's sexual interests. There's a lot of things that cater towards different genders. There are definitely, I don't see a lot of genderqueer or trans events necessarily. That's something I'd like to see. I don't really see a lot of those. They usually have, for the most part, it caters towards Caucasian males. Most of the events do, most of the bars and clubs do, but it's still safe spaces for females too, and a lot of them have the occasional like female event. So Riches used to have Thursdays. Riches used to be like ladies' night. Now I think Sundays they have like a female kind of event. So that's kind of cool that they at least put it on a weekend. So it's not like the middle of the week you're trying to like go out in the middle of the night and you still have to work on Friday. I know everybody has different work schedules when you're working, so it doesn't really mean you have weekends off, but the majority of people, I'd say, have weekends off. But you can kind of see it's not fully equal. Like, Gossip Girl is a lesbian bar. It's like the only one. I don't know of any other ones within a drivable distance. I don't think there's one in LA. There's not one in Vegas. There's definitely not one in Orange County. San Francisco, but I mean, it's San Francisco. That's what you would expect. And there was like an article somewhere about like how there's not a lot of lesbian bars. Like, there's just a handful in the whole country. And the ones that are there, I mean, like, if, trying to survive the pandemic in itself. And so, there isn't a lot of minority, there's not a ton of minorities, I'm meaning like gender minorities, ethnic minorities, sexual minorities. There's not a lot of variety for those, but I do think if you search for stuff, events, meetups, stuff like that, you'll be safe about it. You'd probably find something. But I would say, San Diego is generally pretty diverse a little bit. LA is a whole different vibe because it has such a larger population, and WeHo is like massive compared to like the little Hillcrest area. But I do see the city of San Diego kind of embracing more. Like, one of the soccer teams had like an LGBT night, and it was, they had these like pride, those scarves you have for the soccer games. They had like a pride scarf that had like the pride like rainbow flag on it, and like stuff like that you kind of see in the community. And I have a lot of therapist friends that are working in schools and universities, colleges, and they have some maybe genderqueer, gender non-binary, trans populations of students that they seem like a lot of them were well adjusted to the gender related things being in college. I mean, I don't know if that's everybody's experience. I'm pretty sure it's not like super common worldwide. Everybody's having a great time in college. There's no discrimination. I would love that. It would sound heavenly, but I know how reality is, and that unfortunately is not our reality yet. But it sounds like what I've been hearing from people who work in the field, other professionals in mental health, they're kind of saying that there is somewhat of support that is available, and that people are identifying in these ways openly. Like, on the you usually do like an intake that has a lot of your demographic details, and you can pick kind of like how you identify. A lot of people were saying of college age that a lot of times they felt accepted in a lot of the universities around, so that was good to hear. Maybe it's because I live in Southern California, I don't know. It's a lot more open-minded. Again, it's still not even perfect out here, but I can imagine if it's not perfect here, it's probably a lot worse in a whole lot of other areas, because out here things are pretty open-minded. We have a reputation for hippies all in California, so I don't think that mentality ever fully left. There is a lot of acceptance, and if you don't have it readily available, you can find more acceptance around in San Diego, I've noticed, so that's cool too. But yeah, my friends were saying that, a lot of people who were, the LGBT population that they serve, that's, people on their caseload, people were pretty well adjusted. They felt like the city was kind of like open to them, like they found community support. But when they had to go home because of the pandemic, a lot of them maybe couldn't stay on campus or couldn't afford their rent anymore, or whatever that looked like. A lot of people in their 20s had to move home, and that's where a lot of the mental health problems started coming back up. Is like Because something that does happen when you're in maybe your 20s, if you're going the stereotypical path, and not everybody takes this path of, high school, college is fine. People choose their own path. For some people, maybe, I'm going to say it's not so much of a choice, because for some people, there is that discrimination, and kind of like there is a large population that gets kind of barred off from those opportunities being practical, or, it's like some people have to take care of their families. They don't have time for college. They don't have the money for it. They weren't planning for it. They didn't really know too much about it. They didn't have families or schools that promoted that, hey, once you're out of the school, you're going to be able to even go to community college and afford it, and then transfer somewhere with a scholarship and be able to be successful. Not all schools are equal, even in the public school and private school systems. It's like some schools, you graduate, you get out, and you're not competitive. You're not at the level or level you need to be with your either grades or with your academic record of classes you've taken. You're gonna maybe start community college having to take 3 or 4 extra English and math. Usually it's the English and math classes. But if your school was behind and didn't offer things, or however that looked, a lot of the poorer communities, not always, because there are very good schools in poor communities too, but overall, there's a lot of inequality in general, I would say, with some public school systems in some areas. The opportunity is not equal. You come out, you graduate, you're not at the equal level playing field as the others who start in college level classes, versus having to catch up for a year or year and a half to get to the spot where you can start taking college level. I mean, that can deter people from even going to college sometimes, because a lot of times the point of going to college, other than the social experience, is to get a job. So if you can get a job right out of high school, or even if you're not even able to go to high school and you can get a job, sometimes people would rather just work and not deal with all the stuff that they need to catch up with. And I get that. I'm not judging, I'm just saying there's still kind of this typical mindset of going through high school, going through college, and then usually what happens in your 20s, if that's when you start college, is you're able to kind of get more freedom. Even if you live at home, a lot of times you're able to be a little more independent. You make your own money, you get your own place, or maybe move out. If it's really a toxic environment, you kind of have more options because you're old enough now, and you can leave and you can start your own life, meet gay friends. You can go out to gay places and do stuff and meet people and date people, or do whatever that you might not have been able to do at your parents' place or your guardian's place or your family or whoever you're staying with. If you have prejudiced family members, or people who just maybe they're not fully prejudiced, they just don't understand and don't get it, and it's gonna take them a while. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support in some cities, and other cities don't have any support. So what I would say for people who don't have that support, if you're a baby gay, get online, listen to stuff, watch stuff, find other gays out there. Again, unless you do some digging, you're probably going to find a lot of Caucasians, which is fine. I mean, I'm not a Caucasian person, and I listen and watch a lot of their content, and I love it. I find it relatable on a lot of different levels too. I can tell you who I listen to other than Jay Killam. There's Jade Fox. There's this podcast called We're Having Gay Sex. It's a little, it's on YouTube, so it should be legal. I don't know. It's kind of more sexual topics. I think I already talked about Enjoy the Podcast. That one's not queer, but it's they've had Amber's Closet on there. She's a more masculine presenting lesbian. Yeah, those are some people I listened to early on that I've seen develop into their careers. They started out as just filming YouTube off their phone or off their little cameras in their bedrooms and stuff, and now they're kind of out in LA, out in the community. They have like a whole brand and business off of gay content that they've created. And that's another thing too, like, you know, when a lot of us who are in our 30s or so now, you know, we're younger age, there wasn't a lot of anything to really look at or see or find. I think one of the first movies I remember seeing was called like Urbana or something. What was it called? I knew about Queer as Folk. I knew about that, but I'd never really watched it because we didn't really have Showtime. But I kind of knew a little bit about it. Let me see. I don't know if it was called Urbana. Okay, I googled it, so that's not what it was called. Urbana. Maybe it's Urbania. I don't know, guys. Oh, yeah, it's Urbania. I don't know how to say it. I know that's the name of a place, too. Urbania. Urbania. It was... I don't know if it was even about a gay person, but I know there was something gay that happened. Let me see. Wow, January 24th of 2000. This movie's like over 21 years old. So I'll just read the general description. It says, "Welcome to Urbania, where your life can change in a second. An enigmatic and engaging young man named Charlie has experienced a trauma, but he's doing his best to regain control of his life. When he notices a mysterious stranger at a distance, Charlie comes to believe he's found the key to his recovery. As he travels the city in an effort to encounter the stranger again, he meets old intimates and new acquaintances." So it's kind of about a lot about relationships. I don't remember the whole. I mean, that didn't really explain a lot. That was pretty vague. But I remember that was one of the first movies I saw that had like gay people in it, maybe. And then I also remember, and I mean, I grew up having like satellite TV a lot of the time, and like we had like one of those cable boxes before satellite became popular. I mean, unless it was like a money thing, my folks usually had like cable or some version of like multiple channels, especially to watch sports. Coming from the denomination of Christianity I came from, movies weren't necessarily too promoted, but me, my brother, you know, and sister, because we grew up in LA, you know, there's film is a big part of the culture up there, so you don't just like never watch movies. It was just easy to go to the movie theater all the time, and like I was really into movies probably from high school on. And I don't remember hardly seeing any. I remember I used to watch My So-Called Life on, I think it was an MTV show. That was one of my favorite series way back, and it was like back in the grunge days. Like it's like from the 90s probably. There was one gay character who was friends with one of the main characters. His name was Ricky. He still acts now. But it didn't really show too much of his life. It showed like a little bit that, you know, there's always, in the media, there's always been kind of like gay stories told from other non-gay people's perspectives. You know, so you always get the whole, I mean, and just kind of like, this kind of narrative that, you know, there's, you know, the coming out is always difficult, and it's always terrible, and it's always bad, and things always go wrong, and everyone gets kicked out of their house, and the church always, you know, excommunicates people, and everybody gets disowned, and you never find friends, and you're always like half suicidal, and, you know, hopefully if you get help you don't kill yourself, kind of thing. Like that is kind of the narrative a lot of us grew up with seeing. I'm not saying that is not realistic, because for a lot of people, a large percentage, that is very realistic, so I'm not even gonna say, hey, that's flawed. But the part of it that I do think is kind of skewed rather, is that there are other stories that, you don't really see kind of any other kind of narrative. It's all like about coming out, or about, somebody's discovering that somebody else is gay. So nowadays we're seeing more stories that are just kind of like the L word, and other stories where it's like they're already out. Like, that's not even an issue anymore. Let's just watch people live their lives at this point. Let's watch people how they're actually living, not like how they're trying to just like get past the hurdle and survive that. Like, let's just see what's the day-to-day looking like. And of course, it's Hollywood. It's not all true. I know the L word is not real life. My life is nothing like the L word. I can tell you that much. And I get out a lot, and I socialize and interact a lot. And my friends and my friends groups, there's nothing that looks like any form of that kind of drama, really, other than the fact that a lot of times when you do have a lot of women interacting, there can be a lot of emotions running high, and it can get really, there's a lot of gay drama that does exist, even with gay guys. And my gay guy crews that I see, there's a lot of gay drama. So let's see, so there's that. I'm drinking a cacao shake, so So I'd say something to keep in mind is just kind of challenging those stories, looking at your own life, talking to people around you, who are part of the community too. I mean, I do feel for people who do have to deal with a lot of the tragedies that come with not being cis or straight. I mean, even cis straight people have a lot of trauma in their lives. But, I think when you add a lot of minority, levels to things, a lot of times there's just so much extra. It's just like everything's compounded on top of everything else. I would say, yeah, it's important. It's important to look at. It's important to know about. But I've been kind of feeling overwhelmed by those storylines, because I'm like, we know what's going to happen. Someone's going to out them, or they're going to come out, and like, we have so many of those narratives now that I get a little like, okay, like, let's have another type of story, please. Can we talk about some other things that go on that isn't that all the time? Like, we know that, like, we've seen it, we experience it, we know. Let's go to another area to look at these other kind of topics. So that's one thing that I'm kind of enjoying seeing in the media more, as there is this extra, generation that's a little more tech savvy, able to promote their own stories in their own creative ways. A little older now too, because like, we're not all baby gays anymore. There's a little bit older generations. I mean, there are ones that definitely came before us, but I feel like the generation I'm in was the one that was a little more able to be a little bit more out, and especially because we're so into tech. Like, we were like the beginning of like all of the tech companies that are like massively major right now, like not necessarily gay people, but this generation I'm in. So we're the ones that created like MySpace and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. All the tech companies and all the .com booms and all that, Silicon Valley, everything, that came out of my generation. And so a lot of us know about it like the back of our hands. Like, if I wanted to make a YouTube video, I could just do it. Like, it doesn't take like, we grew up with that kind of stuff. We know it. That's what we do, and so that's how we tell our stories, and that's how we have a lot of creative things to express, is that we use technology a lot. And I think the benefit of that is you get to hear different stories that you wouldn't hear when it's just a Hollywood producer who's just trying to make a buck off of a story that's, mainstream, mainstream is gonna, gravitate towards this because of the market research saying this or that. A lot of times they base stories on what the market research needs to say, needs to be in there for them to get enough people viewing so they make the money, right? Which I get. I mean, it's a business. I get it. Market research plays a role in every business. It doesn't make sense if you're trying to make money to do something that might not make money. I mean, like, the research predicts that it will make money if you add these themes, if you add this story, if you put a gay one, put a black one, like, people will, don't make it a black movie. If you put too many black people, now it's a black movie, and now, like, things like that are like, I get it. There's a part of me that I don't like it, of course, but there's a part of me that gets it. So I am very understanding and aware of how that looks. But yeah, for the baby gays, I'd really say, go out there, look for content. YouTube's a good place to start, especially because, you don't even have to make a login. You can just search without logging in if you need to be kind of incognito about it, or really if you need that privacy. You don't have to even make like a Google account. You can just browse. I have premium YouTube because I don't like commercials and ads, and I like to play stuff in the background. I just turn my phone off and because I listen to podcasts often, so I like to listen to and music on there too. I like to listen to stuff a lot, so I don't like my screen just always on. So sometimes if I don't really want to watch something, or I'm driving around, or even when I'm like documenting for work, I've said this a lot, that I just kind of turn on it in the background, like something to listen to, either music or podcasts or something like that. But yeah, I'd say that's the first place to start. If you really don't know, because then you'll kind of start deciding what you like, what you don't like, what you can gravitate towards, what kind of where do you feel yourself kind of naturally drawn towards. I would say when I don't think I even really knew that I was like gay at all. For a long time, like I think the gender related stuff, I definitely knew that when I was a kid. Like I talked about this before, how I remember like I would look in the mirror as a kid and like, kind of like out of the shower with my like curly, kind of hair the way it is, and like I would look at myself and be like, I could be like related to Mowgli the way that I look, like dark skin, dark hair, kind of like dark wild style kind of hair, and like natural hair, dark skin, kind of skinny athletic kid. Before I started developing any kind of figure, there was really nothing that would distinguish me from like a girl or a boy. I was like, I would look like a boy maybe with longer hair, maybe, but the only way to kind of femme me up a little bit would be with the clothes. But I'd say still, when I was a kid, my voice was deep for a kid's voice, for a female kid's voice. It was on the lower side. That was just fine. I mean, I don't know if I really liked it before, but I kind of thought oddly about it. I was like, I don't have a really high-pitched voice and I'm a girl. I also remember, when I noticed the type of clothes that I preferred, I was probably in about like 3rd, maybe 4th grade, when I kind of realized I don't really like a lot of femme clothes. And I, later on I started always thinking, it was because of a problem, maybe like because my dad worked a lot, or maybe because, I don't know, like I'd always come up with things that I thought were reasons why I was that way. But, now I just am pretty sure it was just natural, just how things came to me. I had a pretty involved family that would like buy me clothes and buy me, stuff from a younger age, and it was always quite femme. But I noticed when I started choosing my own stuff, I never really gravitated towards too feminine of stuff. especially with toys. I mean, I did like dolls and Barbies, but I think the thing I liked with them was the kind of like role play aspect of like the social interactions with them. I really liked that. Like, I was a really social kid, really kind of like social dynamics with different cultural like differences. I was so into like National Geographic and just like different people from all over the world, and like, wow, they're so different. Like, I want to know what they eat. I want to know how their language looks when you write it out, and like, I want to know, like, it just always fascinated me. I used to have a TV in my bedroom, and at one point it was like some world show on some like kid channel. It was like a preteen channel that I used to watch. It wasn't Noggin. It was something less MTV-ish. It was almost like a National Geographic type of channel for like kids, but it wasn't like animals so much. It was just like cultural stuff. And I remember there was a show, because it was like Canadian or something, and there was a show that came on at like some weird hour at like 5 or 6 in the morning or something. And I remember waking up to watch it like early. It was just like they'd go to kids' houses from like any country like around the world, and they'd just show how this is what this kid kind of eats for breakfast, and like like the language, and this is what their school looks like, and do they have uniforms, and this is kind of like a day in the life in their culture. I remember there was this one with this kid from Cambodia. His name was Bong. I really remember this one. He was breakdancing. He was a little break dancer, a little b-boy, and he had his I can't remember if he had no legs or no arms or something like that, or maybe neither, but he was pretty talented with like his dance, and like he had like, I think his family didn't speak English, but he kind of, I don't know if he did or not either. And they had like a little, like, I think he had a bunk bed he shared with like a brother or two brothers or something, and the house was really small, like the kind of house that's so small that you have like stuff kind of stacked up on the walls and stuff like that. It was super tiny, but I was like, this is cool, like kids from all over. And so I kind of grew up with that mentality of like acceptance for like people who are different, and just kind of having like a fascination with differences, and kind of knowing like the stuff we have in common as well as the stuff that's different and stuff that might come up for them. But I remember, when I first started seeing like a little bit with like gay kids on TV and stuff, I think the Real World reality show that was a reality show, wasn't the real world. That show, when it came out on MTV as well, that show was another one that had some gay people that were a little older than I was at that time. I think they were like in their 20s or something. The first Real World, I think, had Puck and like a bunch of other people, and then from then on they almost always had like one gay person in the show. And I remember when Queer Eye came out, and Bravo, when like I used to watch Bravo a lot with my family. There's this show called Jonathan or something. He was like a hairstylist, and it was kind of like they'd have some queer shows on there, like reality type shows during the reality boom, when like everything was a reality show. So I mean, we've been out there. There've definitely been like the talk shows, Ellen, those types of things. We've been out there, but I did notice early on I started gravitating more towards like gay men, mostly gay white men. Those were the first types of videos I remember watching, even if it was like porn or whatever. It was just gay men. Like, those are the first things I kind of started finding online. Was like after watching Queer Eye, I remember like having more. I think Davey Wavy was one of the first gay YouTubers I came across, and I think he lived somewhere in Canada before everyone started moving to LA, because there was a time when eventually most of the popular YouTubers ventured out to LA, because that's where things were happening. But at that time, everyone kind of lived in their respective, cities around the world, and were getting into YouTube. I don't even know if a lot of people were even monetized. They were just recording because they like to record. And then, he now has Hemeros TV. It's a gay, erotic male kind of porn site. I was introduced to like Helix, hashtag Helix that you can see on YouTube. It's like a twink porn company. There's a lot of different things that I noticed that I kind of came across that were just mostly gay white males that, I was watching that kind of stuff before I was even out, but for some reason I found it very relatable. And then BuzzFeed as well. I remember when BuzzFeed had all those original people from BuzzFeed. There were quite a few gay and bi people on there. So yeah, I remember coming across a lot of that early on, and I remember gravitating towards it too, and I never really knew why. I think kind of my friends kind of pointed out to me after a certain point that, like, you kind of date a lot of women, you kind of go out with a lot of women, and your relationships with women, it's like they show that they're flirting with you, that they're interested, that they like you, and you're like sleeping over with them and having little private dinners, and like you're basically dating without actually like explicitly talking about it. You're technically like in a relationship with, like, I wasn't like cheating on people or whatever, but I was just not aware that that's kind of what I was doing. I was kind of like unofficially dating females on a regular basis, and some of my buddies in college kind of noticed that, and they were like, wait, like, you might have a boyfriend here or there, or talk about like this guy if somebody asks you if you think he's attractive, but I don't see you actively pursuing these guys. You're always like talking to women and stuff. But I get along good with guys. And there's a therapist I was talking to pretty recently too, and we were kind of talking about how I kind of talk a lot to guys, and I was saying how my experience with talking to men, I know a lot of sensitive, emotional, sensitive, straight cis males, and I was saying to the therapist, like, I don't really know if it's just because of my presentation and kind of how I am with the kind of gender flexibility and fluidity of things that, and the sexuality, just like dating women in general. I mean, I date everybody, but women probably primarily. Just with all those factors, I think maybe a lot of times straight cis men can kind of really like relate to me. So maybe they're a little more vulnerable, but I don't know, maybe just the guys I know, because of the field I work in, because I do work in mental health, it's possible that they're just a more sensitive breed. Because I can think the guys that I knew from growing up, from church mostly, they weren't very sensitive. They were nice, I mean, but they kind of had this like hard exterior, like a lot of people have at churches. It's kind of like, if it's not a safe environment, people kind of have their shields up, and I kind of feel like they were kind of like that for that reason. But I mean, because we've known each other so long, we've all been through so many experiences. All of us have been crying and vulnerable and all those different things at different times. So yeah, so that's mostly kind of how my experiences looked. Looking back, it all makes sense now, but I kind of was noticing early on, I was kind of like coming into this, there were just parts that weren't easy for me to like access or notice. And then, like, I remember when I first started watching porn, it was mostly gay men. I was mostly watching white gay men, amateur stuff, and I was almost like completely adverse to anything with females in it. I think I liked it, but I told myself, I was like, I can't watch that. Like, I can't even like watch it. So I didn't really like straight videos, like straight porn, because it had women in it, and usually because a lot of it's made for men, like geared towards men to be watching it, men who like women, They show a lot of like the different stuff with like the girls. There wasn't really a lot of porn out there that showed a lot with guys, like for women about guys. But I had subscribed to what was it, Playgirl before, like when, like, you know, you could just get that stuff online, and like I subscribed to it before and I liked it. I mean, I was cool with it. And then yeah, like that kind of thing. But I always thought it was interesting, and I should probably go back and read this, but I had a paper that I wrote in this human sexuality class. This is like in grad school. I don't know how old I was, but this was like in grad school. I wrote this paper. I remember my paper was probably like 25 pages long. One of the next people who wrote the longest was like 17 pages or something, and most people just barely wrote a little bit. And I was like, wow, like, because I wasn't like running around with everybody. I wasn't like super like sexually experienced. And so I'm like, I was just talking about my experiences with stuff that interested me. I was really diving into the questions and like answering the details. I don't know if I put anything gay in there, but maybe I did. I remember there was a lesbian who's a friend of mine who was in the class. I remember her talking about explaining kind of how to find a G-spot kind of thing. I remember going to a sex shop with a friend as part of an assignment, and it was just like a classic heteronormative type sex shop. It wasn't in a gay neighborhood that I remember. I think he knew where it was because he knew that part of LA more than I did. And so we went. I was going to bring a notebook, I remember, and then we didn't bring the notebooks because it would seem awkward. And we just kind of like looked at the prompts and then went in the store and looked at stuff. So I remember initially, that was kind of a lot of information, guys. But I remember initially, it was a really well lit, like boutique kind of store. I remember initially feeling kind of nervous, not noticing I was nervous, but kind of joking around, laughing at stuff. There were like, I think when we walked in, there were like little like outfits, like nurse maid kind of outfits and stuff like that. I remember going towards the back where there were like, I remember looking at, so the stuff that I remember looking at the longest, because we looked at everything in the whole store. I think there was like a downstairs too that was like a gay porn section that was all gay porn geared towards like gay male porn. That's all it really was downstairs. But I remember, and it was all videos. A lot of it was, I don't know if it was VHS or DVDs. I feel like it was VHS because I feel like we were looking at the titles and it was like thicker, but maybe that was just a box or what, I don't know. And I remember also being like, finding stuff in manga, because I was, I got into manga before it was even translated into English readily available. I got into it when my friend used to translate it from Japanese to English, and he would like, I at that time I could read katakana and hiragana. I could like read it, but I didn't really know what it said. Like I picked up things here and there, but I would just, like, my brother would get driven nuts because he'd be sitting next to me sometimes in a car or something, and I'd be like reading it while our parents are driving, and like he was just like, you've been on that page for like 3 hours or something. It's like, because I was just like reading the characters and like practicing, but then like, I would see the storyline and stuff, and like I would still just look at the pictures, and like usually I could actually understand the storyline for most of them. But that was something that I learned too, is that the books that were a little bit larger had a little more like sexual content in them, and there were a lot of queer type manga back then. So I remember a lot of times going into this like because the neighborhood I grew up in had a lot of like Japanese stores, markets, things like that. So there was this little one of the Japanese bookshops that had like the manga kind of in the back. And, you know, there's all these, like, traditional ladies who kind of, like, owned the shop. And, like, they just spoke Japanese only. I mean, probably knew English, but everyone in the store always spoke Japanese. Always Japanese people. And I just go in there to the back and, like, look at my little, like, gay manga. Because a lot of them were wrapped up in other stores. But this store had them just, like, open so you could just, like, read it. And I remember going back there and, like, looking at the gay ones. And then getting into gay anime and stuff like that. And it was just easy to find. Crunchyroll was the app I used to use. And I used to, and yeah, like I was saying, like in grad school, going into that sex shop and looking at those little outfits and looking at I think there was like what the heck was it? I remember there were like glass dildos. I remember looking at the videos. I remember looking at the like penis enlargement pumps or something. One of my friends was asking like, do those work? Are those real? And then I remember looking at there was a video that was playing that was like some kind of tickle fetish video that I was kind of just like watching it for quite a bit. And my friend was like roaming around the store just kind of browsing around, and I was still just kind of like, whoa. Like there was some video playing that I was just like watching, and I'm just remembering it now that I was like, I must have been watching that for a pretty long time. I wasn't just like walk by glance, I was like literally like watching it. So it's like stuff like that, like but yeah, those are kind of some things that I can think of that are like when I wasn't like fully like out or acknowledging anything. I still wasn't really doing like purely straight things. I was still kind of, I mean, I don't know, I guess maybe people watch gay porn but that aren't gay, I don't know, but and I mean it was men, but I mean I just liked it because I was like, well, there's no women in it, and I was kind of like not too open to looking at like women like that. For me, I was like, maybe because I wasn't like, there was a part of me that was like not like too into it, so I think I was comfortable with that because I grew up in a church where they're like, porn is evil, you're gonna go to hell kind of thing. I was really scared of hell. I was like, dude, I don't want to go to hell. That sounds like not really what I want to do, or where I want to go or whatever. But yeah, so that would come up a lot. But yeah, and I was recently watching some Elena Joy. Elena Joy on YouTube has some pretty interesting content. She kind of considers herself a baby gay, and she has some pretty interesting content. She's out there, like in a good way. Like, I'm not judging, I'm just saying she's out there. Like, she doesn't seem like she's not gay. Like, she's like out and proud, yo. But yeah, so something I would say to people who are baby gays is, I get why people kind of hesitate. There can be a hesitation because there's a lot of complex aspects to being a baby gay. There's your culture that you grow up in, your household and things like that, and how the culture talks about, gays or gender related topics and issues, and, gender, expectations related to gender and sexuality and stuff like that. So there's the culture, there's maybe like your school environment, your work environment, your, that professional aspect of things. There's, political aspects of things. There's, if you have a religion in the culture and that kind of thing, different cultural types of maybe like spiritual practices. A lot of these things, and a lot of emotional as well as psychological, and just thought processes. I'd say, pay attention to the media. the reason why I mentioned all that stuff I mentioned before is because, like, what's available in the mainstream, it's always going to have some aspect of truth, right? So even movies about maybe slavery, or movies about, you know, I don't know, any kind of movies you can watch about any kind of cultural group, there's always going to be like some truth to it, but there's always going to be that like Hollywood spin. There's always going to be like this spin on it that's, you know, you got to pay attention to. You know, if you start seeing the same themes all the time, I think that's something that kind of deters people from certain things. Like, so I'll give you an example. It's not even anything gay. If you never grew up around black people, never knew a black person, didn't talk to a lot of black people, didn't have access to black people, and all you saw were black people on the Hollywood screen and mainstream TV, you'd only see violence. You'd see them in the news all the time with robberies and crime. You'd see, you know, a lot of stories about rapping and about drugs and about, you know, illegitimate fatherhood, kind of, you know, deadbeat dads and, you know, single moms and people on drugs. And this is what you would see. Now, if you actually are black and you actually live in a community where there are black people, and if you actually live around where you interact with black people and they're not even, you know, even if it's not like a major part of that, a major population in your city, but you know that there are black people around, they might be your teachers, they might be your doctors, they might be, you know, whatever that you come across, that you see, that you talk to, friends, family, whatever, you know that what you see in the media isn't 100% true. There's stories that you never really see until you go out of your way to look for those. You don't see it, right? But I feel like with gay and, you know, queer, genderqueer related topics, we're still at the phase where we're still just barely getting out of seeing all those main stereotypical storylines that, yes, there's truth to it. Like in the gay community, is there crime? Yes. Is there, you know, disproportionate levels of different sorts of things because of systemic oppression and things like that? Yes, you're going to see that. Just like in the gay community, you're going to see a lot of themes that you're not going to see a lot of coming out themes in straight stories. Like, who the hell would write over and over about how you dated somebody and came out to your parents that you're a cis male dating a cis woman? It's like, nobody cares. That's probably what your family expects, unless you're in like a religion or some kind of cultural background where you're not even supposed to be dating. Then it's like, oh, you're dating. Like, that is part of the story. That's like the different part. That's like you're going outside of the expectations of the norms of that group that you're a part of. And so, yes, gay people experience coming out, and not every gay person has to come out. And then, you know, when you are gay and you come out, you're coming out all the time. If you know a lot of people, it's like when you start a new job, they don't automatically know that you're gay. The other people might have known at your other job, but now you're at a new job, and now it's a whole lot of, now I have to navigate this here, you know. And a lot of times, if you come in, and I'm not here to tell people how to live, or how to like come into your world, or how to, you know, live in your own world. But for example, a lot of times if you come into a job, if you come into a professional site, a professional setting, a fellowship, an internship, a classroom, you do have choices to make if you want to be out and open about, you know, the types of interests that you have. And that's a very personal thing. You don't have to share it. You can come in wearing rainbows and whatever, and just people will just assume. You can be discreet, or you can be very open. And They're just different versions of walking in the world. But something that you'll usually find is the heteronormative expectations tend to come up a lot. So when people don't know you, and especially if you don't present in any way where people will like suspect, like if you're not wearing rainbows and you're not, maybe dressing with a certain hairstyle or certain like stereotypical kind of like, clothing that someone, the heteronormative type of style of dressing, if you're not dressing that way, people might suspect that maybe you're queer or whatever. They don't usually always, depending where you're at, in my experience, people don't usually always just outright ask you. And then sometimes they do because they need you to tell them on their time, and they don't want to give you that opportunity to be open about it. So there's that it comes up that they'll just kind of like, but when you're not straight, you get forced to have tough skin. You come across a lot of discrimination. A lot of it's like discrimination that people don't even notice is discrimination. I mean, we all experience it, and it's like microaggressions, any minority group experiences microaggressions. It's like these little things that people do that are just not even, maybe they're unconscious to them, or they're just not even purposeful, like on purpose, I mean, and they do them. Like, for example, I used to have certain female staff that like never used the bathroom when I was in there, or other ones where it was like they never walked up the stairs like in front of me, like stuff like that. There's like little things that, like, when you're gay you catch this kind of stuff. It's kind of like, really, like, I'm not checking out your ass, and I'm not like peeking in the toilets. Like, I'm here to take a dump. Like, I don't really give a shit. Nice pun there. Like, I don't really care. I'm not in there to kind of like be involved with you. I mean, maybe if I'm at like a gay club and like there's a lady who kind of like approaches in a way that's like, come into the stall with me, it's like, okay, that's probably the only time that I would might actually do something in a bathroom where it's like appropriate and consensual and an understanding that this is where we are and what we're doing. I'm not at a work bathroom trying to like make out in the stalls with my colleagues. I mean, that's just not how this works. I'm not looking, I'm not peeking. I don't want to see what people do in the toilets. I'm actually disgusted by it, and I don't really like, that kind of bodily stuff too much. I'm really, I just don't even want to talk about it. It kind of grosses me out a little bit, but I'm not interested. Basically, it's fine, if you're kind of more masculine presenting, bathrooms, changing rooms, places like that can be a little stressful. People kind of looking at you weird, calling you sir, or thinking you're in the wrong side of, like, you should be over there with the men. Like, nah, trust me, I shouldn't be. Just stuff like that. So, I mean, it comes up, and you just, the way I take it is just, people don't, like, all of us, our minds are so automatic, but I think a lot of times when you're like a gender queer LGBT type of person, gay, whatever you want to call it, when you're in the community, you're kind of used to thinking outside of boxes. You're used to thinking outside of the social norms, because we're always having to think like that. We're always having to think, what should I wear to this? What should I do here? How do I interact here? Can I talk to this woman and she doesn't think I'm like flirting with her, or is it going to be like a whole thing that like I talked to somebody who happened to be female, now everybody thinks I'm flirting when I just literally wanted to know the time, like stuff like that, where it's like, tiring, but you do get a perspective of, what the societal expectations actually are, because you know them because you live in them, but then we don't all live within them. And so we're always like between these different worlds of like your gay life, your gay world, and then the straight society you're in, and having to kind of navigate between that all the time, just back and forth all day, every day. If I shop at the grocery store, if I do this here, if I do that there, it comes up all the time. And if you're in a neighborhood, a community, a city where nobody really cares and most people just mind their own business, you're lucky. I'm one of those lucky ones. If you're in a place where like it's, hard to leave your house every day, or if you're of a group like, like trans females and, that have, a high rate of violence against them, and fearful to, maybe you can be fearful to leave your house or whatever, or go out on dates or whatever that may look like. It can be a little scary. It can be a little stressful. It can be a little, you might experience a lot of prejudice and racism and all kinds of unfortunate stuff. But I mean, there's always support out there, and life isn't always negative for everybody. So if you don't have that kind of story that you see with people, then it's fine. Just like, if you're a black person and you weren't raised in like an impoverished neighborhood, or like a low income area and things like that, I mean, you don't have to be like ashamed of that, or you don't have to be like, oh, like I don't have like a tragic or traumatic exposure to things, like a lot of other people in my cultural group would have. You don't have to be like, trying to like compare traumas and compare, you can have a good, happy, queer life and not have that narrative too. I mean, those people exist, those stories exist, and it's okay to share that too. And something I do like watching and seeing like online is when it's just like queer stories that are just like, we have our lives too. There's parts that just are just like everybody else's. We all get our groceries, we all get the gasoline, we all, pay the rent, like whatever, we all just do the same stuff. Just it comes out in different ways. We party in different ways. That's a big one. But there's a lot of similarities in human experiences too. But yeah, if you don't have a lot of those stories in your life, then that's fine too. You don't have to be like, dang, I was never kicked out, so maybe I'm not like gay enough or whatever. It's like, nah, man, like you're probably still pretty gay if you think that you are. I mean, I don't know, like you would know. I can't say that for anybody, but yeah, I don't really have like a super like heavy closing message, but I would just say, for the baby gays out there, like, yeah, once again, welcome. We see you out there. We see you with your rainbow shirts and your rainbow wristbands and we see you. I think for femme and kind of maybe, people who just present more cisgender without that extra kind of flavor going on, I think it's harder for them because they almost are like forced to have to like kind of come out sometimes on their like, because people don't think that they're gay. I mean, I'm surprised when people don't know that, or people don't like assume that I'm gay. I think mostly because I'm kind of shy and soft-spoken, and like, so I don't really talk a lot openly about like a whole lot of like sexual stuff all the time. But I like talking about sexual topics. I clearly, like, I don't really mind that much when it's like serious. but I don't really like the jokey kind of like judgmental kind of raunchy kind of like. I have a friend that he's kind of just like not perverted, but maybe like that immature like school kid kind of attitude that to me just isn't really appealing. When it's just like, I send somebody like a picture of me and my friends and he's like, oh, she's got nice tits, like I'd bang her kind of thing. It's like, okay, like stuff like that where it's like I don't even want to send you pictures anymore. That kind of thing where I'm like, it's totally inappropriate. And I tell him, I'm like, dude, you're sounding like a douche, like I don't say that, but it's like clearly that's not an appropriate way that I want someone to respond talking about my friends and stuff, but he's kind of always like that. Like every time I tell him something or talk about something, he brings it to some sexual topic. He's kind of just like pervy and weird, and I don't really mind talking to him. Like I've talked about this guy before. Like I don't mind talking to him, but he has like no social graces. So he gets like really hyper about things and just isn't really in tune. It's just very like, I don't mind that it's kind of vulgar, but it's kind of like, I don't know. I find it kind of gross, in my opinion. Like, just kind of how he gets. It's kind of like, I can't say anything about, like, okay, if I'm dating, like, this lady or something, and he'll want to be trying to, like, invite himself to a threesome. It's like, dude, there's no way I want you in my bedroom or anything like that. Like, please, no. Like, that's not gonna happen. Not with you. Things like that. And, like, so he's kind of a hard person to be open with, and I think a lot of people meet people that can be just very inappropriate and just kind of weird and awkward and make things awkward. Like I don't mind if my friends are like, have you been laid lately, or like something like that. I don't really mind when people ask me stuff like if I've hooked up with anybody. Like I was joking with a friend who I was catching up with, and she's like, yeah, like she didn't really know how to ask because I think she thought she was being inappropriate, but I was like, dude, it's been a freaking dry year. But yeah, but I mean, I don't mind her asking me about if I've hooked up with people, because we're like friends. I mean, I don't mind talking to her about that kind of stuff. About dating and all that kind of stuff. I don't find it inappropriate. But people kind of tread lightly a little bit too. Like, I don't know. I've got a lot of ally friends, and especially, like I said, I work out of Southern California mental health sites, and so most of the friends I have also work in Southern California in mental health sites, so they're very in tune with the communities around, and I find them all to be allies. At least my buddies are. I don't know that many prejudiced people. I mean, I know people who get on my nerves about things, or people who can be inappropriate about things, or maybe not too well informed about things. One example, I remember telling my friend of mine, I gotta drink this. I was supposed to drink this for my lunch, and now it's like well past that time. I probably shouldn't be drinking cacao this late because it is a bit of a stimulant, but I like it, so whatever. If I lose sleep, then I don't know why. I drink this Soylent. It's a Soylent protein powder. 2 scoops is like 400 calories. And just like stick it up in a blender with some water, some filtered water, pure water. It's got a creamy flavor. It's chocolate. Tons of vitamins and nutrients, but I think it's the B12 that kind of gets things a little hyper. Excuse me, you guys are gonna have to listen to me drinking this. There's no pause button on here. It's like I can either stop it and save it or not. But sorry guys, this thing is delicious. I'm just trying to drink it all. Okay. So what I was saying, a friend of mine, we talk pretty openly about dating and stuff, about dating other people. We don't date each other. I was trying to explain to her that, like, for me, with dating, you know, there's a lot of gender-related conversations. Like, gay dating, I just kind of put out a blanket statement, like, gay dating's like that. And she's like, oh, I asked one of my gay guy friends, and he says he doesn't have to ask anybody about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, he probably only dates, like, cisgender gay men. And so if they're cisgender gay men, then you're not really going to be having too many gender conversations. You know, everyone's kind of different with what they're doing there. So just stuff like that comes up that's like, you know, it can get a little stressful, honestly, to have to explain things all the time to people. But yeah, if you're a baby gay and you're having a hard time, I'd say see if you can get involved in positive related groups, you know, therapy, the center, if it's safe for you to go to those types of outlet places that you can kind of get some safe experiences, safe connections, professional help, advice. You can always ask your doctor to, you know, refer you if you don't know where to start. Any doctor, I think your primary doctor general, can refer you to a therapist. BetterHelp is good. Talkspace is good. 7 Cups is good. Trevorline is good. All those places, you know, if you have an access and crisis line where you live, National Suicide Prevention Helpline where you live, if you text the word home or the word courage to 741-741, or for Trevorline, it's you text start to 678-678, but that one I think is age limited for kind of people younger than their 20s and younger, somewhere in their 20s and younger. But all those places can refer you to some kind of help in your area. A lot of work sites might have options for you to privately sign up for therapy. A lot of times it's nobody's business, right? Like, just if you went like to a gynecologist, you wouldn't like broadcast it to all your coworkers. Like, it's still considered like health. There's still a level of privacy there. So you shouldn't have to worry, but I don't know if it's always like 100%. You never have to worry about breaches of confidentiality and stuff like that. I know, you know, if you're a minor, your parents might be able to get involved without you wanting that if it's going through their insurance. If you talk to counselors at school, social workers, nurses, there might be some help. But again, like, sometimes they might involve your parents. Pastors are kind of the same. Pastoral staff. And yeah, I mean, it can be a private thing, trying to get help and support. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, there's anything wrong with you. You're not doing anything bad. It's perfectly fine to want to get help, especially if you're feeling suicidal, especially if you're feeling really low. I'd say call 911 right away and talk to someone that way. If you have an insurance that has like a nurse line, like a 24-hour support nurse line, you can call that line. There are many options and ways of getting help. If it doesn't, I've even been in situations, I'm not even a baby gay anymore, and it doesn't matter if you are or not. A lot of times we just need help. If you feel like things are unbalanced or unmanaged and you notice like your mood is dipping, I feel like almost every time I notice that, okay, I haven't been feeling too awesome for like 3, 4, 5 days, I'll usually reach out for some sort of support. And I don't mind talking about that I am very like, okay, if I feel this way for most of the week, then that means I just need to talk to somebody. Sometimes it is friends. Sometimes it, if I feel like, okay, I'm at a place where I'm kind of unloading on my friends a lot, and it's not really like I want to hang out, I want to check in. It's more like, here's my baggage, here you go. When I notice I'm kind of unloading a lot, that's when I reach out for more help. So I definitely go on those types of support apps or those texting lines. And the way I do it is, because sometimes they take so long to answer, I start the message opening with all of them, and then whoever responds first. And so, it's always somebody to talk to. There's always something 24 hours, even if it's texting, that's available. But again, they don't always answer right away. So I've gone between Trevor line, that 741, texting home to that number, and 7 Cups, and maybe even another, like texting a friend or something, and then, see who answers first, and like, that's kind of how I go about getting support when I'm like, I need something fast. But if it's not like I need an ambulance or I need like someone to take me to a hospital or like crisis house or something like that, if I know I'm like in serious need of help, and to me serious might look different than someone else's serious, but when I say serious, it's like I just don't feel good, I can't get myself easily out of this, even when I'm trying all the skills I know. And like, I notice when my sleep is impacted, when my energy is impacted, when my cognitive kind of focus is impacted, that's when I'm like, I need help. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to get help when you need it. I don't see anything wrong with that. So I would encourage anyone who needs support, go get it. You can even get it for free on those places that I explained. You don't have to like wait for your doctors even. You can use that in the meantime, or wait till you have the money. I think BetterHelp and I think Talkspace as well offer a free week if you sign someone else up. So that does kind of interfere with the privacy aspect of things. If you do have to tell some other person, like, hey, I think I need therapy and I think you do too, or whatever, like, it would have to be someone that you really care for. You both get a free week, and as long as it's a trusting relationship, I couldn't say that would be like a bad idea to sign up. But I know not everybody wants everybody involved in their care like that, so if you don't trust them, I wouldn't mention trying to sign up with them. And there are other free options, like I mentioned. I've used BetterHelp and Talkspace. I like them because they're convenient. I can do like journaling on there and just kind of like process my thoughts and things like that. And yeah, I'd say that's kind of a full package of things that people get to deal with being not straight. We all have our different experiences in life, and it's fine to it's fine, basically, is what I'm trying to say. A lot of people can relate to you. Even if you don't know them, a lot of us have relevant experiences to one another, like similar experiences that we go through. We're all one community. Now, when you're dating and stuff, because of all of the high percentages of, traumas that people experience, and gender and, sexuality types of struggles that people have kind of like come to terms with, and all that kind of creates as like a burden on a person and their psyche, in relationships, definitely look out for like toxic traits in people. If you have red flags that you're looking out for, abuse, things like that, a lot of us have experienced those types of things. And when it comes to relationships, when people aren't really comfortable in themselves, or don't really even know that they're abusive, because maybe they haven't really dated before, with someone that they actually wanted to date, of whatever gender or whatever, you start coming into contact with a lot of situations that you might not see in the straight world. So it's good to be aware and have your antennas up. You don't have to be like super paranoid, but have your antennas up, be on alert, that and learn about red flags, learn about boundary setting, learn about what abuse looks like. If you're new to dating, I'd say learn that stuff first, so it when you see it, that like, this isn't okay to have this happening to me, or this isn't okay when this person says this thing or does that thing or makes me feel like this or that. It's good to know. I think a lot of times we're not trained about that. We're not educated on that either. So a lot of being a baby gay comes with educating yourself about what you need for yourself, learning what is around you, what your area generally can easily provide, or what online can provide for you, how you can give back, how you can always help back out, like give back to the community when you are learning, at different stages in your life. And life is all a journey, and welcome to the gay journey. Trust me, I think it's better on this side, guys. There's a lot of potential for a lot of fun, a lot of diversity, a lot of different types of unique experiences that I feel a lot of times straight people don't have those experiences. And there are a lot of allies out there too. So it's not all just like depressive stuff either. So I just want to put that out there, that it's good to keep the eyes open. It's good to keep open-minded. It's good to kind of not rely heavily on the Hollywood side of media. I really go more towards the creative soul type of media, that kind of content that people put out. That's like, this is just me being creative. This is just me giving back. This is just me talking my piece, living my truth. That's more appealing to me, but I know everybody kind of has their own perspectives on things of what they want to see in here. But with that, I'm gonna sign out, guys, because I've been chatting a lot. But I hope that was helpful for the baby gays. I hope you hear this out, and I'm missing a lot. I didn't really script this very well, so I just was doing this on the fly, recording, and I hope you guys like it, though. I'll talk to you next time.